Today's beginner-level art tutorial is a watercolor sketch of a recent day at the beach. Hey friends, my name is Shayda Campbell, and around here we get creative. Summer always means making memories, and today I'm going to show you how to take a photograph and make a beautiful watercolor sketch. So let's jump right in. The first part of our project is just the sketch, and you could use this to do a pencil or marker illustration. So grab whatever sketchbook you like. I'm using one from Strathmore. You'll need a pencil, an eraser, and a pen. And then if you want to transfer your sketch, tracing paper and graphite transfer paper. Now, I usually start with the head, and I always work in pencil first. This gives me a good sense of how large I'm actually going to make the person. And you're going to put a cross where the face is. And now he's on an angle. So that cross is quite close to one side of the head. And the cross is very symmetrical. We want to naturally put those eyes up quite high. Sometimes they're actually right in the middle of your head, in line with your ears. And then the nose and mouth are lower. So I've got lots of hair up top, and then I'm trying to start blocking out his little shoulders and body. And a lot of times what I'll do for a simple sketch of a person is almost draw a stick figure, really just figure out where the legs and arms sit and if they look funny. And from there, I will start thickening up body parts or even just adding clothing. Like you can see I'm adding in the shorts. I'll usually just do a stick figure with mitts for hands and sort of ovals for feet, and that allows me to easily draw what can be quite intimidating, a person, without getting too scared. I'm just drawing a stick figure, and I could see that the arms looked a little funny and the head wasn't quite right. So working in pencil, you get to erase, try it again. I like the way the feet and legs look. Now I just need to get this mitt on his leg, his hand, and then the other one will be holding that shovel. But let me really illustrate it for you. You just do the sticks for arms and then mitts, and then sticks for legs and then ovals. And if you want to draw some clothing in there, go ahead, or just add it on later. So think about sketching with the starting point being just a simple stick figure. What you've drawn since childhood can still work for you here. And then we just kind of thicken appendages up and we start, working it out little by little. I'm going to add the waves in the background, the water, the horizon line. There's these big, beautiful white clouds on the horizon, and then that bright blue sky above. I'm going to sketch in a few cute sand castles. And that's pretty much all there is. A few pebbles and dots will make the sand look really realistic. He still needs his little toy shovel, so let's draw the actual shovel with the handle sort of poking out behind his arm. And then the shadows at the beach in that high noon sun, the shadows are so important. So all of the sandcastles have a really short, tight little shadow, and so does Sully. Sully's shadow is just as important as his figure. I'm going to go over everything with a nice large fine liner, or a fine liner with a large nib. I believe I'm using a 1mm here, so I can really see everything. And this will also give me a sense of is something a little too big? Do I have a leg that's too short? That kind of thing. I did decide to switch once I got to Sully himself. I was using this large nib. I can't be as precise as I want. So that's why I always recommend having a pack of fine liners with at least a couple different nib sizes, because it does allow you a beautiful amount of precision. And now I switched to a 0.5. So I just drop my nib size in half, and I can, get quite precise. And drawing, sketching over top of your sketch, it just allows you to get to know the image a little bit better, and you can work out any little mistakes. It's a way to refine your drawing. You're tracing it once here. Now we're going to trace it a second time on that tracing paper. So not only does the tracing paper allow us to move or transfer this out of an old sketchbook onto a good copy piece of paper. I didn't like my first trace. And it allows you to trace it as many times as you need and transfer it. But it also, the process of tracing allows you to keep what you like and change what you don't. So if you feel that head needs to be just slightly higher up, you just guide the tracing paper, down slightly and make that little change. And of course, if you feel like you made a little mistake, it's so simple to just switch and trace it again. You can trace things as many times as you need to work out all the kinks. So sometimes with a difficult one, I will be tracing things 2 or 3 times on the tracing paper after sketching. No shame in my tracing game. So there's what he looks like. I'm very happy with that. And now I'm ready to move him into my good watercolor sketchbook. Lots of these are YouTube videos if you're interested in anything that you're seeing me flip past. The pears was very recent. But this is called the Perfect Sketchbook from Etcher, and it really is my favorite watercolor sketchbook of all time. So we just take our tracing paper, figure out where you want that image to sit, tape it in with some washi tape, which comes out really easily. Place your graphite transfer paper dark side down. Remember, I've linked all of my supplies in the video description. They're Amazon links, so you can buy exactly what you see me using here. Place that dark side down and trace over that entire image one more time. You can always lift up to make sure things are looking good and everything, is going the way you want. I brought my image over at this point because I felt like I just hadn't gotten something about the angle of the face. And the face is only 2 little curving lines for eyes and like a little line for the nose, but something was just slightly off. So I really got close up and just worked on those simple details, the little eyes and nose, until I was pretty happy with it. And it doesn't need to be perfect. Putting the paint and the bit of pen on, it really can take things in a good direction, I find. So don't worry if your pencil sketch isn't perfect. Now, if it feels like I'm speeding through this, it's because my first painting didn't go that well. I've got a little travel set of watercolors, using a number 4 round brush here, and I added the peachy colors for his skin, but when I went to do the shadow, it just looked way too orange, so I just started over. No big deal. I don't love to always start over. Sometimes I like to see it through, but sometimes it's just the right decision to go again. And when I did my second one, I decided that for me, since I'm not confident with the subject matter, I would do the pen illustration first, because these pens are permanent, waterproof, so you can always just do the pen drawing and then treat it like a coloring book image and add the watercolor on top. And that I found to be very confidence building. And once I'd gone over everything in pen, I also had the added bonus of being able to erase as much of that graphite transfer as I possibly could. So I've got this really clean image. I've got my paint already mixed up. And now I use my little number 4 round brush here, and I've got sort of this peachy skin tone. There's sort of like a peach color in this set. I mixed it with a bit of white, and we're just going to fill in. It truly is like a coloring book. I am looking at places where there are really bright highlights, like his arm here, and so I left that pretty much just white. I love to leave a good highlight with when I'm working with watercolor, leave some negative space. And then I'm adding some soft shadows by adding a slightly darker peach color, on his other arm. That's it, and his face, places that are more naturally in shadow. We're going to do some blue on his little shovel here. Now the handle of the shovel is red, so I just carefully put that in, and then I also use that nice bright cherry red for his swim trunks. Did get a little bit of a bleed because his tummy area was still wet. If that happens, just take a clean damp brush and even a little bit of tissue, and you just lift the color, no problem. Used a nice sandy yellow, so I've got a little bit of brown in that yellow, a little bit of white, and the hair, colored in the hair, leaving a nice big highlight or negative space at the top of his head. Now, we are on to the sand, the sea, the sky, the sea, the lake. And so this is going to be fun, and I'm going to move fast because this is really simple and it's a lot of play. What you're going to see me do is play. I am taking a light, cool brown for the sand and just doing this really watery wash of paint. And then I go in and I lift a little bit of the paint with the paper towel. So you see me put down some color in really random spots and then lift it up. I'm blotting with tissue. You can use cotton balls, you can use paper towel, whatever you want. But by constantly lifting the color that I put down, I create a really fun textured area that just works, I think, for sand. This is also a great technique to use for water, for sky, for clouds. Basically, it's just lifting, and you can lift with anything, with cotton balls, with other paint brushes. And I'm going to do something similar here for the water as well. I've got a mix of blue with a little hint of green in it, lots and lots of water. So it's quite a light greeny blue. And I'm just lifting, and that's going to give me, in this case, I'm not looking for texture so much as I'm looking for something that just looks like water, I guess is the way I will say that. And then for the sky, I'm using a beautiful ultramarine blue, and we're going to kind of miss the area right on the horizon line where those clouds are sitting, or where there's that white cloud. Also using a bit of lifting. I don't know if the sky was my most successful, but this is just a sketchbook piece that I'm just creating to sort of honor this memory, and because I want to practice my figures. So, the sky wasn't perfect, but is okay. I just did a very, very watery, like almost barely there blue where the clouds sit, and I just did a lot of lifting. I think it turned out okay. Regardless, I'm going to leave it alone for now, and I'm happy that I've actually got color on everything. And now I can start to think about the shadows, the shading. So the first thing I'm going to do, something easy, the sandcastles. I mixed up a really dark brown and just added that dark brown on the majority of each sandcastle, leaving a really harsh, clean highlight on the left-hand side of each one. Then I did the little sort of semi-oval shadow at the base of each sandcastle, and I also filled in Sully's shadow that I had sketched out with that nice dark, almost black brown. Put a little bit of darker color along the horizon line, and that's looking good. Next up, I decided to take another go at the lake, the water. So I used that same blue. It's a little bit more concentrated, so a little less water, just more pigment. And I'm just putting down a few sort of horizontal brush strokes. Still doing a little bit of lifting, but I'm pretty happy with it. And then it was time to tackle the shadows on his body. Now, this is where I got tripped up before. First of all, my color wasn't great. So this time I did a mix of peach with like a little hint of Payne's gray in it, and I was actually a lot happier. And then I just focused on doing the areas where it absolutely needed it. So I almost didn't follow the picture. A lot of his body in the photo is in shadow, and I just thought it's going to look too harsh. So instead I did the shadows on the legs, the sides, the inside edges of his arms, kind of his collarbone area, his shoulder, his side of his face, but I didn't, go crazy with it. And I also took that time to mix a slightly darker red, so red with a little hint of violet and brown in it, and I did some shadows on his swim trunks. Then I kind of went back to my sky. I just feel like the clouds look a little funny, like almost like there's two layers of clouds, which is just not right, but it's okay. I worked with it. It's fine. And then I needed to let that dry completely. Once it had dried, I put a little bit more pen on it. Some areas just looked a little bit washed out. So going back in with your fine liners, just adding a hint more detail where you need it. And then I finished my piece by adding some white gouache. This is my favorite watercolor cheat. Gouache is a highly opaque water-based medium. It works wonderfully well with watercolors, and it's a great way to add in highlights that you missed or that you just were going to add in with gouache. So adding some streaky clouds to my sky, adding a little bit of that white wave to my water, and that is my piece all done. Thank you for watching today. Hit that subscribe button for more creative content like this, and I will see you soon. If you'd like to see more sort of vacation memories, portraiture people, please let me know in the comments below. Thanks for watching.